Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, continuing our discussion on the Īśopaniṣad, we will today discuss mantra 17. Vayuranilam amritam athedam bhasmantam shariram Om krito smara kritam smara krito smara kritam smara. Let this temporary body be burned to ashes, and let the air of life be merged into the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. So this mantra continues the mood of prayer in the that began from mantra 15, right? So mantra 15 and 16 was a prayer for the Lord to bestow mercy on the devotee by removing his glaring opulence of the Brahman or his material energy. Mantra 17 and 18 are praise to the Lord for the removal of obstacles. So the first two lines of the mantra describe the relationship between the soul and the body. So the soul is described in the first line as immortal and imperishable, amritam, and the body is described in the second line as temporary and perishable, bhasmantam. And the remaining two lines describe the mood of a devotee at the time of death. And the two lines are repetitions. So, and the living entity prays to enter into the spiritual kingdom of the God after relinquishing his body, material body and material air. Air is pran. So the devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and the sacrifice that he has performed before his material body is turned into ashes. And he's making this prayer at the time of death with full consciousness of past deeds and of the ultimate goal. Okay, so it's a poignant verse that the devotees recite at the time of death, and it's completely in the mood of begging for mercy. So even though it looks like that the devotee is laying claim to all the activities that he has done, but we'll see that even that's done in the mode of humble service. So Prabhupada has a long purport, 15 paragraphs, and in the first three paragraphs he talks about how the material body is a foreign dress that must be given up. In the next two paragraphs he talks about that the best way to give up the body is by surrendering to the Lord and not merging into the Brahmajyoti. Right? And the reason Prabhupada says is because the wordings of the mantra can be somehow interpreted to say that also. And we'll see and the proper way to understand the wordings in the context. And then in the next two paragraphs, Prabhupada talks about the importance of thoughts at the time of death. Antkalecha mameva smarana bhakta kalevaram. So the verse in chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says that whatever one thinks at the time of death, he acquires that nature. Then in 8 and 9 paragraphs, Prabhupada talks about how Krishna never forgets the service to him. Right? So then when we question that what is the need for the devotee to request Krishna to remember his service if he never forgets. And we'll discuss this. In the next two paragraphs, Prabhupada talks about how Krishna's mercy is always available through devotional service. And then paragraph 12 talks about how Bhagavatam elaborates on all this and all other verses. So the principles that are initiated here, enunciated over here, are presented as pastimes in the Bhagavatam. So the Ajamel pastimes talks about how the consciousness at the time of death can determine one's subsequent activities. And in the final final three paragraphs, Srila Prabhupada indicates how one should prepare for death by executing devotional practice. So, Vayur Anilam Amritam. So, Vayur represents to wind. So, in this mantra, Vayur actually refers to the soul. So, this is as per what is known as Upaman Nyaya. So, Upaman Nyaya is when the similarity of an inherent quality is used to make an inference. So, both wind and soul have the quality of movement. So, especially in the conditioned state, the soul is constantly moving from one body to another, just like the wind is constantly moving. So, because this is the similarity of the quality of movement in both, the description of Vayur is used to refer to the soul. Prabhupada translates Vayu as air of life, which is different from life airs. And life airs is pran. And because Vayur is described as Amritam, it cannot refer to pran, because pran is material. It gets destroyed, right? So, so by the qualification of Vayu as Amritam, one can further understand that Vayu refers to the soul. Prabhupada in the purport also clearly states that this refers to the Atma, the living entity. Then Anilam. So the Jiva is called Anilam because so Nilayana means that a resting place. Anilam is without a resting place. So the nature of the conditioned soul is that he is constantly changing bodies. He does not have a permanent resting place. Even while he's in the body is changing. Right? So that's why Vayur Anilam. So Vayur Anilam means the soul of the Jiva that is constantly changing. Right? But despite all that, Amritam. Because the soul, whether it is in a condition or a liberated stage, is eternal. So what is changing is the bodies. So Vayur Anilam refers to the quality of the conditioned soul frequently changing bodies, but nevertheless remaining eternal. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, it is said that the Atma is without sin, without age, without death, without sorrow, without hunger, without thirst, without deceit, and fully satisfied. Right? So the soul is without death. That is Amritam. Same point is made repeatedly by Krishna in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So essentially, Vayur Anitam Amritam means the eternal soul that in a conditioned state is constantly changing bodies. So this is referring to a devotee. So a devotee in the conditioned stage has an eternal soul and has reached this body after changing through millions of body. Right? So it's describing his current condition. Then Athedam Bhasmantam Shariram. So the first line talks about the soul, the second line talks about the body. So it starts with Atha. So Atha means now, and it is used to indicate that this is a different topic from the topic under discussion. So the previous line spoke about the soul that is eternal. However, idam, So athedam means athedam. However, this bhasmantam, right? Bhasmantam means temporary. Shariraram is the body. So the eternal soul is constantly changing bodies. However, this body is perishable and destructible. So it distinguishes also the material body from the bodies of the Lord and eternally liberated souls, which are all spiritual and eternal. Right? So that distinction is also made. So not just between the body and the soul, but also between the body and the body of the Lord and other liberated entities. So this body, Sharira, is temporary, right? Turning to ashes, Bhasmanta. So that is the difference in the intrinsic nature of the soul and the material body. The soul is Amritam. The body is Shariram Bhasmanta. That it is temporary and turning to ashes means destroyed. So this is essentially indicating death, that as the soul leaves the body turns to ashes. And this is the time of death. And because all conditioned jivas are under the control of karma, their bodies must die. Right? So in Bhagavad Gita 2:20 and the Katha Upanishad 1-18, same point is made. For a soul, there is neither birth nor death at any point. He is not slain when the body is slain. Right? So, so the distinction between the two is spoken about in other parts of the scriptures. So if we combine these two lines, what do we get? That while the soul of the conditioned body is eternal, the body is temporary. And so this is establishing the eternal soul residing in the temporary body that it has acquired after innumerable changes. And now let's proceed. Then the mantra says Om. So Om is used to indicate the presence of Lord. So the previous two body lines spoke about the conscious soul and the unconscious body, the eternal soul and the temporary body. The third line speaks about that which inspires both, which is Om, which is nothing but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in all the scriptures, Om is used to indicate the presence of the Supreme Lord. So now comes the prayers. Right? So the fact that it is preceded by Om means that the prayers are directed to the Lord. Right? So taking it from the top, the eternal soul occupying a constantly changing body, which is perishable, is praying to the Lord. Right? So that's where we have come. What is the prayer? Krato smara, kritam smara. Right? So literally, smara is translated as remember. Right? Shravana kirtana smarana. Smaran means to remember. So the literal translation that Prabhupada puts in the translation is that please remember, O Lord. But if Krishna is perfect, then it is not possible for him to forget anything. Right? Because saying that you please remember indicates that the person is suspecting that Krishna has so many things to take care of, he may have forgotten. But Krishna is perfect, which means he has perfect memory. He cannot forget anything. So contextually, remember here is used to mean please consider. Right? So that is the mood of the supplicant. So it's not that he is saying that I have done so much for you, please remember. This would be a very materialistic aspect, right? Somebody goes to the master and asking for a raise, and then he says, that, do you remember I was working late for you that day? Do you remember that I took care of so many chores for you? So now I need this raise. They'll be very materialistic. But essentially what the devotee is saying, that these things that I have done, please consider them. So he's begging for the Lord's mercy. He's asking for consideration and gives a reason for that consideration, which is expanded in the phrase Krato Kritam. So Kratu refers to the Lord, since he is the object of the actions performed by the Kritam, the devotee. So Kritam is the verb, that these are the actions being performed, and to whom the object or actions are being directed. The object of the action is Krato. It is the Lord. And Kratu is preceded by Om to establish that all this is in the context of the Supreme Lord. So the question is, okay, the devotee is asking to the Lord to consider something. But what specifically do you want the Lord to consider? Like, what is the Kratam? What are the activities that you have done that you want the Lord to consider? So the Lord in this is addressed as Kratau, which means sacrifice or intelligence. Because the Lord is the essence of sacrifice and knowledge. Aham Kratur Aham Yajna. Right? So in Bhagavad Gita 9:16, Krishna makes this point that Aham Kratur, that I am the Vedic sacrifice, and Aham Yajna. Or in the present context, Krato can mean meditation, as in Evam Kraturha, that one who has meditated thus. So, how is Krishna worshipped? He is worshipped as the ultimate enjoyer of Vedic sacrifices approached by yajna. And so this is for those who are following the path of karma. Or is approached by intelligence, and by intelligence is approached by knowledge. So this is the path of Gyan. And as Paramatma, he is approached by meditation. So this is the path of Dhyan. So the phrase we see Krato Smara, Kratam Smara is repeated twice to indicate the different moods of the prayer. So, so considering the different meanings of Krato and Kratam, this can convey different things. So the person is saying that, so if you consider Krato to be sacrifice and Kratam to be intelligence, so you can say that I have worshipped you by Yajna and Gyan, right? Or if you consider Krato to be sacrifice and Kratam to be meditation, then the person is saying I have worshipped you by Yajna and Dhyan. It can also mean that I have worshipped you by right and wrong. So in this context, the prayer is that please only consider what I have done right and forgive what I have done wrong. It can also mean complete and incomplete. So then the prayer is that accept the complete and by your mercy make the incomplete also complete. Then it can mean direct and indirect, bhakti and varnashram, which means that the person is praying that accept the bhakti and allow for the varnashram. As in mantra 14 we had seen how, no, mantra 11 we had seen how Varnashram was considered as avidya and bhakti is considered as vidya. Varnashram was a way for regulated sense enjoyment, and bhakti was devotion. So the understanding was that one can use Varnashram as an anga for bhakti. So the person is praying, please accept my bhakti and allow for the Varnashram that I have followed to support my bhakti. So in summary, the prayer to the Lord is to accept the acts performed in direct relationship to Krishna, perfectly or imperfectly, and neglect all acts that were done in relationship to the self alone. Right? If you summarize all that in the course of the life, the devotee is acknowledging that there are some activities that are performed as angas of bhakti. Right? Or of those activities, some are performed properly and some are performed improperly. So, firstly, the prayer is that accept the acts that I have performed perfectly and forgive me for the acts that I performed imperfectly. Acts in bhakti. Now, outside bhakti, the person performed activities for satisfying the self only. Right? So, this comes under varnashram. Right? So, all those activities that I perform outside the scope of bhakti for myself only, the prayer is please neglect them. And so a more poetic way of the devotee saying that whatever little acts of bhakti that I have performed for you, accept them whether they were complete or incomplete, and forgive me for everything else. So since these prayers are recited at the time of death, the devotee is not praying for the future because there is nothing left for him to do there but to die. Right? Because earlier on, the devotee can pray that please empower me so that my intelligence always goes to you. Please give me the strength to ignore objects that are degrading to my senses. So the prayer can be more uh, in terms of give me further opportunities to worship you. But at this point, the devotee is dying. Now, understanding there is a next life, he could pray for bhakti in his next life, but that's not the mood of this prayer. The mood of this prayer is, I am dying right now. Please accept whatever little service I have done for you. Please forgive me for all my shortcomings, but take me back to the spiritual world. Right? So the devotee is not praying for another birth. He is simply saying that award me an entry into the spiritual world. So that's why there is no prayer, no part of this prayer where he is asking for support for later activities, because there is no time for any later activities. That time is gone. It's all in the past. So Srila Prabhupada talks about attitudes towards the body. So so those who are completely following karma, they romanticize karma. The karma means that you are the maker of your life, right? There's this saying that be so strong in your karma that even the Supreme Lord will ask you as to what you want to do, right? So these are all these are basically romanticizing that karma is absolute, karma is the end all in all. Jnana is demonizing, right? What is jnana? It is neti neti neti. The body is a lump of ignorance, have nothing to do with the body. Material nature, it is there to delude you, nothing to do with material nature. So jnana gives the impression that you are living in a very dangerous environment, and it scares you into wanting to leave it. Bhakti has the way of utilizing that whatever is there around you, whether it is jad or whether it's sentient, find a way to utilize it. Whatever karma that you do, find a way to dovetail it to the service of bhakti. Right? We see Yashodama here, she's churning, she's churning buttermilk into butter. And so it is endeavor from her end, but the butter is for Krishna. So she is utilizing her karma and her gyan for the purpose of bhakti. So Prabhupada then talks about how to prepare for success. Now, the prayer is, really speaking, at the end of one's life. But of course, Prabhupada is also speaking to us, whom he hopes is going to follow his instructions and prepare for that moment of death. And Prabhupada would say that life is a preparation and death is the exam. So he wants us to prepare well so that we can do well in the exam. Right? So Prabhupada says all the facilities suggested in this mantra can be easily obtained by constant contact with the personal feature of the Absolute Lord, Absolute Truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities. Right? And here Prabhupada talks about the 9 types of bhakti that is given by Prahlad Maharaj. So he talks about Shravan and Kirtan, hearing and speaking. So Parikshit Maharaj perfected his life sitting down and simply hearing the Bhagavatam. And Sukadeva Goswami perfected his life by speaking the Bhagavatam. Then Smaran is meditation. Right? And Prahlad Maharaj, he perfected his life by constant meditation on the Lord. Then Vandanam is Akrura. We had said that these 4 mantras are Vandanam, which is a anga of bhakti. Right? So any one of these angas can take one to perfection. Right? So just by Shravan, all that Parikshit Maharaj did was Shravan, nothing else. He was just sitting and listening. And that took him back to Godhead. So Akrur, when he entered into Vrindavan and he saw the auspicious footsteps of Krishna, then he recites beautiful prayers to glorify the Lord. Pada Sevanam is Lakshmi Devi. Right? You see that she's sitting and massaging the feet of the Lord. Now, the devotees may not have access to the Lord, but they have access to the deity. So Pada Sevanam is also worshipping the deities. Pada Sevanam also means worshipping by your feet. So things like parikramas, things like performing activities for the pleasure of the Lord, they are in Pada Sevanam. Dasyam is Hanuman. Right? Hanuman was in the mood that whatever you tell me, tell me my Lord, I'll do it. And that was his perfection. Archanam is Prithu Maharaj. Right? So Prithu Maharaj was an expert in deity worship. Sakhyam is Arjun, by friendship. He perfected his life. And Atmanivedan, which is surrender of everything, is Bali Maharaj. Like Vamandev came and Vamandev took away everything from him, the 3 worlds, and Bali Maharaj happily surrendered everything, including his own life, to Bali Maharaj. So by the practice of any one of these 9 angas, one or more, one can perfect one's life so that at the time of death, the devotee can sincerely claim to the Lord that I did Shravana Kirtana, Smarana Vantan, Pada Sevandas, right? Please consider this for me as a candidate for liberation. So the mantra also gives us a deeper philosophical aspect of meditating on death. Right? That so for a conditioned soul, there is the body and then there is the soul. So the material body is going to give up the soul, but it's the soul that does not give up the body. It's the soul that is attached to the body, not the body to the soul. So until that attraction to the body is purified, the soul will keep getting bodies again and again. So maybe that body is destroyed, but because the soul is still hankering for a material body, it will get another body after that, right? So at the time of death, we remember that which we have taken shelter of in our entire life. So if in all our life we have taken shelter of uh, ourselves, that aham karta, aham bhogi, aham balvan. So I am great, I am the doer. Then one will meditate on one's own self at that time. Or sometimes you meditate on your loved ones, sometimes you meditate on your family. So wherever you drew your emotional sustenance from, that will be the object of meditation. And that determines your destination. Now Krishna is known as Animish. So Animish means that he never blinks, which means that his eyes are always open to our service. And Krishna is also known as Nimish, which means his eyes are closed, which means that he closes his eyes to all our shortcomings and our mistakes. So the unfailing love of Krishna is ever waiting, ever willing, and ever working. So while we are working on our own attachments to the material world, Krishna is waiting. The moment we turn to Krishna, he is willing to help us. And as we struggle in our path of bhakti, he works along with us to perfect our life. Right? So considering this, considering that the present is all that we have and all that we will ever have, what better way to use the present in re-establishing our relationship with the Lord, who is Animisha and Nimisha, who is anxiously looking to focus on our small good points, who's more than willing to close his eyes to our many mistakes, who has been waiting for us since time immemorial, who's more than willing to be with us and is actually ready to work with us to perfect our life. Right? So that is the meditation that we can have at the time of death, or even at the moments that will lead to death, which means that this is a meditation that we can have all the time. So the conclusion is that the body is temporary and there is something else that stays after the body is destroyed, which is the soul. The soul is indestructible. So Prabhupada says this mantra verifies the fact that the living entity exists after the annihilation of the material body. At the time of death, one is completely helpless. So the person is reminding of his past activities. He indicates that no more options are left. Prior to this, there is opportunity to do karma, vikarma, bhakti, offenses, etc. At the time of death, all that has been done. Like the student has prepared and written the exam. Nothing else to do but wait for the result to be awarded. So the Lord is expected to reciprocate, right? So that is why the devotee is praying, because there is this faith that the Lord will answer our prayers. And as we saw in the previous slide, it is not misplaced expectation. The Lord is Animisha, that his eyes were always open to the services we did. And the Lord is Nimisha, that he is always willing to forgive and forget our shortcomings. So the point that is also made here, that the Lord is fully independent, because if the devotee had these assurances that if I did this activity, it is my right to enter the spiritual world, then there would be no need to pray to Krishna, right? Because Krishna is infallible. he can never forget. But the point that was made earlier on, that endeavor itself is not sufficient to get into the spiritual world. What else do you need? You need the mercy of the Lord. So the prayers are essentially to attract the mercy of the Lord. The prayer is to show complete dependence on the mercy of the Lord. Everything else is secondary. Right? When the person says, consider what I did, forget what I did not, all that is secondary. The mood of the prayer is that I may have done a billion activities that were favorable, and maybe another billion activities that are unfavorable. But despite all that, the only way I can enter into the spiritual world is if I have your mercy. So I am fully dependent on the mercy of the Lord. So the prayer can be paraphrased to say, "Oh Lord, I may have tried to do so many activities that I hope were pleasing. If you are so pleased, please disregard my shortcomings, deliberate or inadvertent, and award me your mercy." Right? So Krishna is not forced to do anything, not by bhakti and certainly not by karma, jnana or yoga. So a mature devotee realizes this and throws himself completely to the mercy of the Lord. Now, in the purest sense, this is the prayer for liberation is not considered to be proper in Shuddha Bhakti, because there is the desire it represents the desire in the jiva to go to a better place. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing because it's a spiritual world, but the definition of pure bhakti is anabhilashita shunyam. So anyabhilashita, that there should be no desires other than anukulena krishnanu shilana bhaktiruttama. Right? We read it in Nectar of Devotion. That other than the desire to serve Krishna favorably, the person should have no other desires. But here the person is demonstrating a desire for liberation. And so the acharyas say, indicates the mood of the devotee is Jnana Mishra Bhakti. So it is Bhakti, but it is mixed with Jnana. That is why the Jnana aspect of him is looking for liberation. Now this Jnana Mishra Bhakti is also a platform for Shuddha Bhakti. That as one performs this more and more, the subsequent prayers, not in the Īśopaniṣad, but the subsequent prayers, like Mahaprabhu says that, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagdish kamye, mam janmani janmani ishare, bhavtad bhakti rahitu kitvaye. Right? He says, I don't want, na janma. That he says, I don't want liberation. Na janma, na sundarim, no wealth, no beautiful woman. Then what I want is life after life of devotional service. So when he's saying life after life, it means that he does not want liberation. Life after life means I keep taking birth again and again. For him, it's a secondary thing. The main thing is bhavatar bhakti rahito kitvaye. That I just need an opportunity to serve you. That is Shuddha Bhakti. Here the mode is asking for liberation, which is Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Very, very elevated nonetheless, but not at the level of the highest devotion. So we end over here. This is our 17th mantra. We have one more mantra to go. And thank you so much for your patient audience. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.